Hi, I'm Eric Lawyer, and welcome to this tutorial for Stepworks Studio. Stepworks is a tool that makes it easy to create split-screen media presentations with text, images, audio, video, music, and beats that users can perform like they're playing an instrument. That's what makes Stepworks a little different from presentation software like Keynote or PowerPoint. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Stepworks to create your first story. So let's get started. All right, so when we launch Stepworks, we load a default story that has a single step in it. We can see here we have a narrator character that's saying the words, "Take your first step." And Stepworks stories are created using characters as if we're really telling a story. We'll see a little bit more about that in a bit. But for now, we can jump right in and just start editing text to change these words to whatever we want. So let's say I want our narrator to say, "Hello world." That's going to be step one. Now I want to add a second step in which they'll say, "How are you?" All right, so I have a two-step story here. I can go ahead and play my story and try it out by clicking the preview button, this green button in the top right. So I click that, we launch the story. I can use the right arrow key to advance. We see the narrator enters on the screen. It says, "Hello world." And then in step two, they say, "How are you?" If I press the arrow key again, we'll loop right back to the beginning because this is only a two-step story. All right, so I'm going to press the escape key to get out of the preview mode and back to the editor. And let's see, I want to expand this story a little bit. I've got four words that are each 4 syllables long and they all rhyme. So I'm going to use those to make my story a little bit longer, a little more interesting. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to enter my first word here, which is dictionary. My second word is going to be salivary. I'm going to use the plus key to add a third step here for the word mercenary. And then for word number 4, that's going to be boysenberry. Okay, let's go ahead and preview this story. Dictionary, salivary, mercenary, boysenberry. Now you might have noticed that in this first step, there's a few other things happening other than the text just being displayed. The characters moving on screen, we're hearing a little bit of a musical phrase. So let's look at why that is. So right now by default, our view here in the Stepworks editor is showing us a summary of what's happening in each step. So kind of the highlights, the most important things. But we can actually dig deeper than that by clicking this lock button. So we click that and we'll unlock our view and we'll move into the actions view. And we can see that each step can actually be composed of multiple actions. And so in step 1, we've got an enter action here, we've got a speak action, and we've got a play phrase action, which is responsible for the music that we're hearing. So by clicking each of these, I can unlock the editing capabilities for each one. And if I use this button to go to the next step in the story, we'll see that step 2, by contrast, only has one action going on. Same things with step 3 and step 4. So that's why those steps don't have all those other actions going on at the same time. But step 1 has this enter action and the musical phrase that's happening. Okay, so I'm going to jump back out to the top level here. I'm going to lock up this view because if I don't, then every time I click on a step, it's going to take me to that detailed view, which I don't need right now. And let's say now I want to actually change my story so that there's more than one character. I'd like to have 4 different characters saying these 4 different words. So by default, Stepworks hides the character features just to keep things simple, but they're easy to turn on. All you need to do is click the character button here. And now we'll see little icons determining which character is doing each of these things. So all of these have the letter N in it for narrator. All I have to do is click on one of these and I open the editing capabilities for that character. I can change their name or pick a random name. I can choose the musical instrument that they're playing. We'll get into that a little bit later. And I can change the color that's used to show them in the interface just to make it easy to tell them apart. So I want to change all these other 3 words so that they're all said by different characters. So let me do that. Go ahead by clicking these. Clicking the character icon here, and then just choosing Add Character. So now we've added a new character named Larissa, who is now saying this word salivary, and they've got their own panel that appears as they come on the scene. Let's do the same thing here for these other words. I'm going to add a new character here. We have Gina, and we'll add another character here, Lisa. Okay, so now we have 4 different characters saying these 4 words. If I go ahead and preview my story now, we've got the narrator, Larissa, Gina, and Lisa. All right, and as we start over again, you might notice that the layout isn't always the same. It seems to be changing each time. Now let's take a look at why that is. So if I go ahead and unlock and jump back into the action again, the action view, what we see here is an enter action that describes what this character is doing. So they're entering from off-screen right and coming onto the scene. If we go to the next step here, we'll see that when I created this Larissa character, it automatically added an enter action and a play phrase musical action that shows them entering from the right or the bottom. So however many directions I have selected there, Stepworks is going to randomly pick between them in order to determine how that character enters. So that's why sometimes we get different things happening each time. This is another way that Stepworks is different from a lot of presentation software. You don't have random transition options that you can choose from. You may have noticed that there's a lock icon also in this action view that lets us go even deeper. And so this enter action actually has a lot of other options that can be configured here. I'm not going to go into all of them right now, but you can see that it's set to enter the scene potentially at a lot of different sizes. So those are also reasons why you see a little bit of variation in the layout as we go through the story in different times. Okay. So now that we've got our 4 different characters, we've almost got kind of a little text comic happening here. They've got their own panels and they're speaking to each other. Let's say I want to actually have these words, since they are 4 syllables long, maybe I don't want them to appear all at once, but I'd like them to actually unfold syllable by syllable as these steps play, so it gives a little bit more of a rhythmic feel. So that's easy to do in Stepworks. All we need to do is select a speak action that has the word in it. Let's unlock the action view so we get the more detailed options. We see there's 2 tabs here, one for single, if we want the whole word to appear at once, and another one for multiple that lets us split the word in a bunch of different ways, or really split whatever text that we have entered here. So we can split it on words, sentences, syllables, or characters. So in our case, we want to split on syllables, and we have the option to split it across multiple actions in this step or across multiple steps. So what this will do is if I split a word in syllables across actions in the same step, it means when that step is triggered, when the user clicks a button, all 4 of those syllables will display in turn. If I instead split that word over multiple steps, that would mean that the user would need to individually trigger every syllable by pressing that right arrow key. So it's just a difference in terms of how it would play out. Do you want the user to trigger the whole word at once or to walk through syllable by syllable? So it's really up to the effect that you're trying to create. In this case, I'd like the whole word to animate as the step starts without the user having to trigger every individual syllable. So I'm going to pick multiple actions in this step. And then there's an option here for delay per action. So to explain that, let me jump up to the edit menu here and pick scene settings. So you'll notice something also a little bit unusual for presentation software is that this scene has a tempo in beats per minute. And that tempo determines how quickly musical events or rhythmic events are played back when the user performs the story. And then there's a subdivisions of the beat, which defaults to 4. So we've got beats, and then each beat is subdivided 4 times, so effectively turning quarter notes into 16th notes. So I'm going to slow down the tempo a little bit here from 120 to 100 beats per minute. And now this delay value starts to make a little bit more sense. The delay of 2 means it's going to wait 2 pulses or 2 subdivisions of each beat before each syllable plays. So it's going to space out the syllables in time by that amount. And you can change that to whatever you want. So now that I have all my split settings here, I'm going to click split text. We're sent back to the actions view and we see that, yep, indeed, we've got dictionary, 4 different syllables here. And if we look at the delay column here, we can see that each syllable has been delayed by 2 pulses. So we've got 2, 4, and 6. And the ones that are set to 0 are just going to play immediately when that step starts. So we should see the syllables of this word unfolding and adding to each other over time when we play back. So let's go ahead and try that. Now the dictionary panel will be animating as it enters in, so we might miss a little bit of the animation, but you should still get a feel for it. Okay, so you saw that the syllables of the word were animating as they came in. All right, so let's go ahead and do this to all the other words in our story. So salivary, I'm going to unlock it here, splitting on syllables across multiple actions, split. Now we've got salivary, that worked. Now we've got mercenary, we're going to split that one the same way. Great. And now we've got boysenberry, we're going to split it as well. Okay, but the splitting, syllable splitting isn't perfect. So sometimes it'll miss a syllable, and that's what's happened here. So it thinks boysen is all one syllable. So that's easy to fix. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the delay for these syllables since they're not quite right. This one should be 6, and this one should be 4. And I'm going to add a new one here that's going to be at 2, and that's going to be the syllable sen. And one other thing I need to change here, I'm going to unlock these settings and go back to single, is this check, which says add to existing text. So that by default, when you add a new speak action, the text that that character says replaces the text that was previously there. So by checking this box here, I'm going to make sure that that text is added to the text that was already there instead of replacing it. So our word will unfold syllable by syllable and add to each other. All right. Then finally, I'm going to go ahead and edit this action to remove the extra letters of that syllable. Okay, so we should have 4 words, each split into 4 syllables. Let's try it out. Dictionary, salivary, mercenary, boysenberry. Okay, great. Okay. Now I want to go ahead and add a little bit more visual interest to our story. So I'd like to add an image that kind of goes with each of these words. So let's do that by going into each step. We're going to use the plus button to add a new action. And I'm going to choose visual. We have lots of different options here. We can show an image, video, we can change the volume of video, we can stop it, we can play audio, we can play music. We'll get into some of these options later. For right now, I'm just going to show an image. The blue button means we haven't selected any image yet, so I'm going to click that. And I can upload an image from my local drive. I can link to an image out on the web, or I can search for an image. And when we pick search, we'll be able to search Unsplash. So for right now, I'm going to search for forest. I'm going to grab a good forest image and add it. So it becomes the background of that character's panel. Cool, so let's go to our next step. I'm going to go ahead and add another image. One thing I'll just show you here briefly is if I pick show video, I have options to do things like add my webcam. I can search for GIF animations that will loop, or I can link and upload a video just like with images. So for right now, I'm just going to pick image, and I'm going to search again. Let's search for ocean images. That seems appropriate for salivary. I'll pick that. Next step. Let's add another show image action. This time I'm going to search for dirt. This looks like a good one for mercenary. And for our last step, gonna do another show image action. And I'm just going to search for purple things. So there, I like this one. Okay, pink, not purple. All right, so let's go ahead and try our story now. Okay, great. So now we've got images coming in, and again, the layout can change because of all those random variations that we saw before. Cool. So now we have a little bit of an issue with readability, though, in our text. It's a little hard to read, especially in the salivary step. So let's go ahead and address that by changing the styling of our text. So I'm going to go back to step 1 here. And this is where the state bar comes into play, which is what we're seeing right here. So when I select an item here, I can go ahead and edit different aspects of the styling of that item. I can choose which character I want to edit, so which panel I want to affect, and which aspect of that panel, the frame, the text, or the visual aspects. So I'm going to choose text because I want to change that. And I'm just going to make some setting changes to this text to help it read a little bit better. So I'm going to pick the font Prada. I'm going to make it italic. I'm going to go into the style drop down, make it uppercase with black text on a white background. And I'm just going to tweak the padding a little bit here and center it. And then finally, I'm going to turn off the quotation marks and the character name, because I don't really want it to say narrator dictionary. I just want it to say dictionary. All right, so let's go ahead and play this first step here. Okay, now we have much more readable text than we had before. So let's go ahead and make these changes to our other steps as well. So I'm just going to quickly replicate these. Whoops. There we go. Italic, black text, white background, uppercase, tweak padding, and center, and turning off the quotes and the character name. All right, let's do this again. Boom, boom. Black text. Background, uppercase, padding, centered. Turn those off. And last one. Text, white background, uppercase, centered, padding, and turn these off. All right, let's give it a shot. Dictionary, salivary, mercenary, boysenberry. Great. Okay. All right, so let's start to dig into some of the musical effects here. So you might have noticed that our musical notes are kind of playing on the same rhythm as our syllables are unfolding. But they don't always quite match. Like sometimes there's always 4 syllables, but sometimes there's only 3 musical notes, or there's only 2, or sometimes there's 4. So let's make sure that there's always 4 notes so it matches up with the number of syllables in these words. And so we can do that by editing our play phrase commands here. So what play phrase does is it randomly chooses notes from a given chord and plays them at a given tempo at a given volume. So I can change my chord here. I can change the duration of these notes. And I can change the volume. So I actually have specific chords that I want to use, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, I want to unlock this action and show there's even more options for the play phrase command. And the specific one I want to mess with is the sequence length. So I want us to always be 4 notes long. Before, it was randomly choosing a number of notes from this range, but I want to make sure that it's always 4. So I'm going to set that. I'm going to leave the octave settings alone for now. Okay, and I'm going to choose a particular chord here. I want to actually do B flat major. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go to our next phrase, and let's make some similar edits. I actually want D minor chord here, and let's make it be 4 notes long. And now I want this one to be A minor, which it already is, and we'll also make it 4 notes long. And for our last phrase, we're going to choose, we already got E minor here, that's what I want. And we also want it to be 4 notes long. All right, so let's listen. 4 notes. All right, so 4 notes each time. So our default instrument here is the kalimba, but let's say I want to change that. All I need to do is go to the character settings and change the instrument that that character is playing. So let's say I want to use a flute here. Okay, so now if I go play my story, We got the flute sound on the first step, but not on the other steps. And that's because in each step, a different character is playing this play phrase action. So in order to get them all to play using the flute, all I need to do is change the character that's doing that action to the narrator, because the narrator is the one that's got the flute. So I'm just going to edit these. And in step 4. All right, so now if I play. Nice. So we've got flute playing all 4 of those phrases. One little tip to kind of help your musical elements be a little more rich is you can actually double up these play phrase commands. So in step 1 here, I'm going to actually add another play phrase from the narrator using the same chord and same volume. And so now we'll get a little bit of kind of random harmonization within the same key as these 2 play phrase commands execute. So if we listen closely. Okay, so you got a nice little harmony going on there. I'll loop through again so you can hear it one more. Here it comes. Okay, and also notice that it's random, so it's randomly picking notes. They're always from the chord, so they're going to sound good. But you also get that nice variation there that's satisfying. All right, so for our last element here, we're going to add a beat. And that's easy to do. We're just going to add another action here. And we're going to choose play beat. All right, and the way play beat works is it plays a looping rhythm based on the notation that's entered here as text. And in this notation, X means play a note, and period or dot means rest. So this is literally, play a note and then 3 rests. So it's a very simple beat that's just going to loop. But if I have the narrator doing it, it's going to use the flute. And I don't want this beat to be played with a flute. I want it to actually be played with a percussion instrument. So I'm going to pick one of the other characters that we haven't used yet to play sound. So let's use Larissa. And I'm going to change their instrument to, let's do a rim shot here. Okay. So now let's listen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we can hear that repeated rim shot beat playing. That's just going to keep playing forever until we change it or stop it with another action. So what's going on here is now that we have this rhythm, we kind of have a context to perform in. It actually activates everything. So it becomes really fun to, trigger these new steps on the beat and hear the melody unfold as we go. We're still doing it at our own pace, but it starts to feel a little bit more like music that we're playing. All right, I'm going to add one more beat element. So let's add another play beat action here. And I want a different instrument this time, so I'm going to pick a different character that we haven't used yet. And we're going to set their instrument to hand clap, let's say. And let's go ahead and add a beat here for the hand clap. Oops. Let's hear what that sounds like. Nice. So even just there, we have a nice little, musical beat rhythm that we're starting to build up in layers, and you can see how you can continue to do that and create something really rich. So I hope this gives you a good sense of some of what's possible with Stepworks Studio and some of what makes it so unique. I'm going to be creating more tutorial videos to walk through some of the other features, and of course there's always the documentation if you really want to start digging deep. So until then, thanks for watching. See you next time.